Okay. Right. I promise I didn't touch anything. Okay, I'm not seeing anything yet here, but something's loading. Ah, there we go. Fantastic. Got it there. Okay, so right, yes, everything seems fine now. Okay, hello everybody. So yeah, what I'm going to talk about in this little 10-minute slot is an area that I think is a little bit underrepresented in course books, which is spelling. I've noticed that lots of my students, they even advanced students, they really have problems with spelling, especially things such as double consonants. That's a big problem for learners here in Portugal, because Portuguese language doesn't really have them, doesn't really use them much. So I started thinking about how I could help students with spelling. And I mean, obviously English is famous as being a language which has a very complex relationship between how it's written and how it's pronounced. But there are actually many logical rules. And so I want to help my students become more aware of and reflect on the logical rules. So I mean, when we're thinking about teaching spelling, there are two there are two schools of thoughts. First of all, the phonics approach, and then there's the whole language approach. So just to give you a quick example, I mean, if I give you these nonsense words, you can have a pretty good guess at how they're pronounced, can't you? Nabe and slop and dash. Alternatively, if I give you these irregularly spelt words, you still know how to pronounce them. And so basically the first two words, the nonsense words, that's the phonics approach. Like you're using the what you logically know about the language to put together the words and to figure out how you'd pronounce them. Island and Wednesday, that's the whole language approach, where you learn the whole shape of a word and then you learn how the whole word is pronounced. In this 10 minutes, I'm just going to cover a little bit one of the rules that I think is helpful for students, coming from a phonics perspective. So looking at the logic of and the logical links between the written language and pronunciation and how students can sound it out and how that can help them with their spelling. Because when I showed those nonsense words to even to my advanced students, not all of them could sound out that that first word was pronounced nabe. Some of them were saying nab. And it made me realise that they lack an awareness of quite an important part of English, of the English spelling system, which we're going to look at now. So here are 3 spelling mistakes. Now 2 are taken from my students' work and 1 is mine, which I wrote on the board, which is a bit embarrassing. So in the chat box, can you write 1, 2 or 3, which do you think was my mistake? Okay, so a variety of opinions. Well, spelling mistakes 1 and 2 were from my students' work, and spelling mistake number 3 was my embarrassing mistake. Now, I mean, to me, and I guess to expert speakers of English, numbers 1 and 2, I think that we can realise that those are spelling mistakes because we think of the pronunciation. Because number 1, we would pronounce that as writting, and number 2, we would pronounce that as swiming. So we, as expert speakers, have an awareness of something that our students don't. Yeah, so I wanted to help them with this area. So what is the rule that good spellers are aware of that weaker students aren't? And I'll come back to rocketing in a moment and why I made that mistake. Oops. So basically, yeah, the kind of the phonics rule that good spellers are applying is it's the rule that we can see here. If you take mat and then if you add an E to the end, it changes the pronunciation to become mate. And if we take sit and add an ing extension, it becomes citing, so it changes the pronunciation. Now this is the rule, well, it's actually called vowel protection, where if you put a if you have a short syllable, which is like a consonant, vowel, consonant, and you add another vowel to the end, it changes the pronunciation, like mat to mate, or sit, if you add ing, it makes it citing. So if you want to write sitting, what do? You have to add in another vowel. Sorry, no. If you want to write sitting, you have to add in another consonant. You have to double the T to protect the first vowel to keep it short. So I really wanted to give students practice in this area because I just don't think they're really aware of it. You know, they learn the rule. You know, if you have a consonant, a short vowel, and a consonant, then you have to double the final consonant when you are writing the ing form. So they learn the rule, but I don't think they really understand the logic behind it, the phonics logic behind it. So I wanted to give them some practice in this area. So here I'm just going to go over a couple of activities that I developed to help them practice. So first of all, I've got some visuals which show they show two words which are connected only by yes, two words which differ only in an extra E at the end. And Hanan, thank you very much. You've already written in the chat box, is indeed tap and tape. So I've made some little slides for my students and they have to basically say what the words are. So here we go. So I'm going to give you a few, and please write in the chat box what the two words are which are connected just by the addition of an extra E at the end. So number one was tap and tape. What about this one? I'm liking that picture there on the right at the moment. Very good, Hannah. Win and wine. Great, yeah, Rob and or Robert and Robe. And finally, what do these two delightful pictures represent? Well, both Hannah and Hanan are acing this. Yeah, it's cut and cute. So I sort of use these pictures to introduce the rule. And then this is the rule that I like to teach them. So if we think about it, so we've got tap and tape. So then I list it. Well, what happens when you add the E? So you've got A and it becomes A. Or you've got win and wine. So we've got I and then it becomes I. So how would you finish this sentence here? The E makes the vowel say it's what? Jane, that's right. The E makes the vowel say its name. And it's the same with other suffixes that you add on as well. So I'll give them a bit of practice in this. And here are some activities and games that I do to help them practice this. Oh, yes. My mistake earlier was rocketing, because you have to tell them that this rule only works with single short stressed vowels. So rocket, why don't we double the T in rocket then? Can anyone type in the chat box why that is? Why don't we double the T? That's right, Sandra. Yeah, the stress isn't on the last syllable, so they need to know that as well. And actually learning that rule helped me not to make that mistake anymore. Okay, so I'll just skip on a little bit. It's running out of time. All right, so a couple of activities to practice. You know the game, stick two chairs at the front of the classroom, and I make one of them the single consonant chair and the other one the double consonant chair. And then I give them I dictate some words, and in teams, one has to run and sit in the chair, whether it's a double or a single consonant. Okay, so everybody, can you please, my letters haven't come out right here. One should be chair A and one should be chair B. Okay, well, I'll tell you what you can do is you can just spell them. Okay, so I'm going to say a couple of words and you have to spell the words in the chat box. And imagine in your head that you're running to sit in the chair, either of double consonant or single consonant. Okay, so here we go. Bigger. I'm sure you all know how to spell it, but just for the example, bigger. Oh, very good. Well done. Double. Very good. Tiger. Oh, very good spellers. And then I just get them to look at the difference, and I get them to pronounce the words. You know, bigger tiger, bigger tiger. Hear the difference. Hear the difference. Now here is a delightful story that I wrote all by myself. As you can see, it has some mistakes in it. So when you spot the mistakes, can you just write them in the chat box? Yes, happy. So how, if I wrote the word like that, how would it be pronounced? That's right, it would be pronounced like happy, wouldn't it? Yeah, and we don't want that. Looked, yeah, looked is a mistake. Why don't I need to double the K? Oh, that's right, because it's a double vowel, etc., etc. So just going over this, and what I like to do is I like to get them to pronounce the words as if they're wrong as well. So like this word here, biggest. It's not biggest, is it? No, it's biggest. Yeah. And in fact, you can just give them, I mean, for more advanced learners, you can just give them any text and get them to find words that illustrate this spelling rule. So just have a look at this little text about English spelling, and in the chat box, write any words that you can see that exemplify the rules of vowel protection and the double consonants and the long and the short vowel sounds and the vowel saying its name. Like, for example, I might point out written, because if we only had one T, it would say writen, wouldn't it? Yeah, we don't want that. Okay, great. So I can see that, yeah, just like the students would, you're finding examples of words which exemplify this rule. Oops. Okay, so yeah, my 10 minutes is up. Oh, that went fast. I've got a couple of useful links here. This is a really interesting